It was the quietest night Black Hollow County had seen in years. The air was thick with fog, and the ground was damp from the day's rain. But there, in the dark shadows of the county courthouse, a body lay, lifeless, marking the first of many deaths to come. The quest for power was about to consume everything. If you're fascinated by true crime, gripping twists, and spine-chilling mysteries, hit that like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss a single episode of this shocking journey. You won't want to miss the twists and turns of Black Hollow County. Black Hollow was a place that seemed to have forgotten time. Nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains, the county had always been a quiet backwater, a place where secrets were as common as dirt. But that was before the murder of Sheriff Samuel Hayes. Sheriff Hayes was a beloved figure, a man of honor and integrity who stood against the tide of corruption that ran through the veins of Black Hollow's political machine. He had been a guardian in the county, a protector. But his death, and the circumstances surrounding it, left the entire community rattled. The investigation into Sheriff Hayes' death was almost immediately overshadowed by a more pressing issue: the upcoming election for the county's district judge. As the news of Hayes' murder spread, so did whispers of the power struggle that had been brewing beneath the surface of Black Hollow for years. The candidates were sharp, ambitious, and ruthless. The two frontrunners, Councilman Ray Harper and the enigmatic lawyer Evelyn Miles, were locked in a bitter battle for the position. Harper was a smooth-talking, wealthy businessman with a string of shady deals, while Evelyn was a self-made attorney with deep ties to the county's underworld. But as the days dragged on, something didn't sit right. Sheriff Hayes had been investigating the corruption in the county, something many believed had gotten too close to the people running for power. Was his death just a random act of violence, or was it something far more sinister? Detective Alex Stone, a former NYPD officer turned small-town investigator, was assigned to the case. He quickly discovered that nothing in Black Hollow was as it seemed. Behind closed doors, Ray Harper and Evelyn Miles were more than just rivals. They were enemies, each with their own deep secrets. The investigation leads Alex to a shocking revelation. The sheriff had uncovered a hidden alliance between the county's most influential families, who were using their control of the judicial system to further their own agendas. They had been quietly pulling the strings in Black Hollow for decades. The twists, the corruption, the lies, it was all starting to fit together like a puzzle. But someone was desperate to stop Alex from finding out more. As Alex gets closer to the truth, his own life is in danger. Strange things begin happening: his phone lines cut, his office ransacked, and ominous threats left on his doorstep. But it's the warning from a mysterious informant that truly shakes him to his core: they'll kill you before you find out who really killed Hayes. At the same time, the election for district judge intensifies. Harper and Miles are pulling out all the stops, each one more devious than the last. Both candidates are willing to go to any length to secure the vote, even if it means resorting to murder. Just as Alex believes he's uncovered the key players in the conspiracy, he stumbles upon a chilling discovery. Sheriff Hayes wasn't just investigating corruption, he had been digging into the murder of a local businessman, Jonas Blackwell, whose family had mysteriously disappeared years ago. But what Alex doesn't know is that Jonas Blackwell wasn't just any businessman. He had been trying to expose the very same political families Harper and Miles were now aligned with. The more Alex digs, the more the puzzle pieces begin to fit. But just when he thinks he's ready to expose the truth, everything turns upside down. The night of the election arrives. As the county gathers to cast their votes, a massive storm hits, knocking out power across Black Hollow. Amidst the chaos, Alex receives a final cryptic message from the informant: the game isn't over yet. At the same time, Ray Harper's mansion is set on fire, and Evelyn Miles is found unconscious at the scene, her life hanging in the balance. With the election still undecided, Alex races against time to unravel the final piece of the puzzle, but before he can reach the truth, he's ambushed by a group of armed men. The last thing Alex hears before blacking out is the sinister voice of one of the attackers, "The crown is ours." The storm raged on, its deafening roar drowning out everything. The wind screamed through the town of Black Hollow as the fire at Ray Harper's mansion burned in the distance. But inside the suffocating darkness of a musty, abandoned warehouse, Detective Alex Stone came to a horrifying realization. The people pulling the strings in Black Hollow were far more dangerous than anyone could have ever imagined, and they weren't just after power. They wanted vengeance. The last thing Alex Stone remembered was the chilling words whispered in his ear before everything went black, "The crown is ours." When he woke, it wasn't in the safety of his office or a hospital bed. Instead, he found himself shackled to a chair in a pitch-black room, his hands sore and trembling. His mouth was dry, his mind spinning, and his heart raced as he realized just how deep the rabbit hole went. Someone had gone to great lengths to make sure he didn't uncover the truth about Sheriff Hayes' death, or the deadly power struggle unfolding in Black Hollow. The storm had knocked out power across the town, and the county's fate hung by a thread. As Alex struggled against the chains that bound him, his mind raced with questions. Who had captured him? Why? And most importantly, what had happened to Ray Harper and Evelyn Miles? The election was still ongoing. The residents of Black Hollow were caught in the middle of a political war that threatened to tear their lives apart. Then, he heard it, footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoing against the cold concrete floor. The door creaked open, and in the dim light from a lone flashlight, Alex saw the silhouette of someone who should have been dead. It was Sheriff Samuel Hayes, alive. The man standing before Alex wasn't the sheriff he remembered. His eyes were hollow, his face gaunt and covered in bruises, as if he had been tortured for days, weeks, maybe longer. But it was him. Sheriff Hayes was alive, and he had been playing a dangerous game all along. "Alex," Hayes whispered, his voice hoarse. "You've been chasing shadows. The truth is darker than you think. Much darker." Alex could hardly process the words. Hayes had been investigating corruption, but why hadn't he come forward sooner? Why had he stayed hidden? And why was he now telling Alex all of this, with his life clearly hanging in the balance? "It's not just about the district judge election," Hayes continued. "This is about control. Control of Black Hollow, of everything. Ray Harper and Evelyn Miles, they've been working together for years. But there's more, much more." Alex was shocked. "What do you mean, working together?" "They made a deal," Hayes explained, his eyes darting nervously toward the door. "They promised the county to a third party. Someone with more power than both of them combined. And they're willing to kill anyone who stands in their way, including you." As Hayes' words sank in, Alex knew time was running out. He had to get out of there, but he couldn't do it alone. Hayes, despite everything he had gone through, seemed determined to finish what he started. He quickly unlocked Alex's chains and handed him a small, crumpled piece of paper. "Find this," Hayes ordered. "It's the key to everything." Alex unfolded the paper. It was a list of names, including several local families with connections to both Harper and Miles. But the final name on the list was one that sent a chill down his spine: Jonas Blackwell. Jonas Blackwell? The missing businessman? Alex asked, feeling his stomach churn. Hayes nodded. He was the key. Before he disappeared, he uncovered a financial scandal that would have destroyed everything these people have built. Harper and Miles wanted him dead. But it wasn't just them. They had help. And they're still pulling the strings. Suddenly, the door to the warehouse burst open. Two men, both wearing black suits and carrying guns, stepped inside. Their faces were covered, but their eyes were unmistakable, dangerous, cold, and hungry for blood. "Time's up, Sheriff," one of the men said. "You've made your choice." Without another word, they lunged at Hayes. Alex dove at them, knocking one of the men to the ground, but the other quickly aimed a gun at him. "You shouldn't have come here, Alex," the second man growled. "It's too late for you to stop what's already in motion." Just as the man pulled the trigger, Hayes leapt forward, taking the bullet for Alex. The force of the shot sent Hayes crashing to the ground, his body convulsing in pain. "Get out of here, now!" Hayes gasped, his breath ragged. Alex hesitated, but the sight of Hayes, blood pouring from the wound, left him with no choice. He ran. Alex didn't look back as he ran through the dark streets of Black Hollow, his mind racing. He had to find Jonas Blackwell, and fast. He couldn't let Hayes' death be in vain. But as he made his way to Blackwell's old estate, something felt wrong. There were no police, no sirens, no sign of life. It was as if the entire town was holding its breath. The eerie silence was broken only by the sound of his footsteps, echoing off the walls of the abandoned buildings. He reached Blackwell's estate and found the front door wide open. Inside, the place was trashed, papers scattered across the floor, shelves knocked over, and broken furniture everywhere. It was clear someone had been searching for something. As he moved deeper into the house, Alex's eyes fell on a single, bloody handprint on the wall. He followed it to a locked door in the back of the house. With his heart pounding, he forced the door open, revealing a hidden room that looked like something out of a nightmare. In the center of the room was a desk, papers covering every inch of its surface. At the far end of the room, there was a large safe. Alex's eyes widened when he saw the combination lock on the door, 3-7-2-5. He quickly entered the code, and the safe creaked open. Inside, instead of cash or valuables, there was a single file, thick, old, and yellowed. As Alex opened it, his blood ran cold. It was a list of names, all with one thing in common: they were all dead. All victims of mysterious accidents or unsolved murders that seemed unrelated at the time. But looking at the names and the dates, it was clear. They were all part of something much bigger, a conspiracy that reached into every corner of Black Hollow. The last name on the list was Harper's. Before Alex could process what he had just uncovered, his phone rang. It was a strange, unknown number. "Alex, I hope you enjoyed your little treasure hunt," a voice said, cold and indifferent. "But you're too late. Black Hollow is ours now." The voice on the other end of the line was familiar, too familiar. It was Jonas Blackwell. But how? Alex started, his mind racing. Jonas' laughter echoed through the phone. "It's all been part of the plan from the start, Alex. You thought you were digging into Harper and Miles? You've been chasing ghosts. The real power has always been closer than you think." Before Alex could respond, the line went dead. As he looked around the dark room, the pieces began to fall into place. The storm outside had grown even fiercer, as if mirroring the chaos that was about to erupt in Black Hollow. But one thing was clear: there was no turning back now. The final act in this deadly power struggle had just begun. The clock was ticking. In the heart of Black Hollow, the storm raged on, and Detective Alex Stone stood at the precipice of a revelation that could shatter everything. All the pieces were in place: the dead, the lies, the betrayals, but the question remained: who was the true mastermind behind Sheriff Hayes' death? Was it Ray Harper? Evelyn Miles? Or was there someone even darker pulling the strings from the shadows? Alex had been running on fumes for days. The evidence was there, scattered in his mind like fragments of glass, but it wasn't until now that he could see the full picture. Everything he had learned, everything he had uncovered, had led him to this moment. The storm outside seemed to match his inner turmoil: chaotic, unpredictable, yet somehow necessary for the truth to come out. Jonas Blackwell was alive. He wasn't just a missing businessman, he was the puppet master who had orchestrated the deaths and the political war in Black Hollow. And now, as Alex pieced together the fragments of Blackwell's twisted plan, the final act was unfolding before him. Alex had always been a man of justice, and justice would be served today, one way or another. Alex sat at the desk in his office, the file before him now open. The safe in Blackwell's estate had yielded the answers Alex needed. A list of names, a series of documents linking the political figures of Black Hollow to corrupt dealings, and a financial ledger that traced back to the creation of a shell company, Blackwell Enterprises, that had been siphoning money from the county's funds for years. The most shocking discovery, however, was the last page of the ledger. It was a handwritten note, scrawled in haste but unmistakably clear. It was never about power. It was always about revenge. That's when Alex realized the truth. The death of Sheriff Hayes had been the catalyst, the final act of a long-brewing vendetta. Jonas Blackwell had faked his own death years ago to avoid being caught in the web of corruption. But now, with the county's power vacuum in place, he had returned to exact his revenge on those who had wronged him. Ray Harper and Evelyn Miles had been pawns in his game, their political ambitions nothing more than tools for Blackwell's ultimate revenge. They had been manipulated into believing they controlled the county's future, but in reality, Blackwell had orchestrated everything from the shadows. It was time to confront the mastermind. Alex knew where Jonas would be. He'd left a trail of breadcrumbs for Alex to follow. Blackwell had always been arrogant, believing he was untouchable. But Alex was ready to make him face the consequences of his actions. As Alex approached the decrepit mansion where Blackwell had taken refuge, a sense of dread washed over him. The winds howled around him, the storm continuing to rage. It was as if the universe itself was conspiring to throw everything Alex's way, every challenge, every doubt, every obstacle. The mansion's doors were wide open, the air inside thick with the scent of decay. Alex moved cautiously, his hand on his gun, eyes scanning every corner. In the grand hall, at the end of a long, dimly lit corridor, he saw the silhouette of Jonas Blackwell standing before a large window, looking out at the storm. "You're too late, Alex," Blackwell said, his voice cold and distant, as if he had been waiting for this moment. "You've been following a false trail this whole time. All the pieces, all the names, it was all part of the plan." Alex tightened his grip on his weapon. "This ends tonight, Blackwell. You can't hide forever." Blackwell chuckled darkly, his back still turned. "You think you've uncovered the truth, but you've only scratched the surface. You want to know who killed Hayes? I did. I pulled the trigger. But that's just the beginning. Hayes was an obstacle, he stood in the way of what I wanted. I made sure he knew too much, and he paid the price." The words hit Alex like a punch to the gut. The man standing before him, the man who had seemingly disappeared from the world, was the one responsible for the chaos that had torn Black Hollow apart. But as Alex closed in on him, the shocking truth became even more clear. Blackwell wasn't the only one responsible for Hayes' death. Blackwell turned around, his cold eyes locking onto Alex's. "You think it was me? No, Alex. Hayes was never meant to die at my hands alone. He was always going to be collateral damage." Alex's brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" Blackwell smiled, the kind of smile that made Alex's blood run cold. "The true mastermind? It's someone you've been chasing all along, someone you thought was just a pawn in the game. Someone you never suspected." Suddenly, the door behind Alex slammed shut, and the room filled with a blinding light. He spun around, his heart racing. Standing there, bathed in the harsh light of the doorway, was none other than Evelyn Miles. You were always too blinded by your own need for justice to see the truth, she said, her voice cold and calculated. Blackwell wasn't the mastermind. I was. Alex's mind raced as the weight of the betrayal hit him. Evelyn had been playing both sides, she had been working with Blackwell the entire time. The political candidate with a dark past had manipulated everything from the very beginning. She had used Ray Harper, used Sheriff Hayes, and used Alex to get what she wanted, complete control over Black Hollow. With the truth finally revealed, Alex knew what had to be done. He couldn't let Blackwell and Miles walk free. They had destroyed lives, manipulated the system, and created a cycle of violence that had claimed too many innocent lives. You've lost, Evelyn, Alex said, his voice steady. This is where it ends. But before he could take another step, Evelyn lunged toward him, pulling a gun from her waist. The shot rang out, deafening in the stillness of the mansion. Alex barely dodged in time, his heart pounding as he returned fire, hitting her in the shoulder. She fell to the ground, clutching her wound, but it was too late, her reign of terror was over. Blackwell, seeing the chaos unfolding, attempted to flee. But Alex was faster. He tackled the man to the ground, pinning him beneath him, the storm still howling outside like a symphony of fury. With the final evidence in his hands, Alex knew he had won. Justice had been served. The trial was swift. Evelyn Miles and Jonas Blackwell were both convicted for their roles in the conspiracy that had torn Black Hollow apart. The town, once on the brink of collapse, began to rebuild in the aftermath of the storm. As for Alex, he stood at the courthouse steps, watching the sun rise over Black Hollow. Justice had been served, but the scars of the past would remain. And though the power struggle in Black Hollow was over, Alex knew that the quest for power, the thirst for revenge, and the darkness within people would always be there, lurking, waiting for the next opportunity to rise. The storm had passed, but the winds of change had just begun.